There's a specific kind of cold feeling that hits your chest when you realize you're completely alone. You look around at your coworkers, your family, your friends, and something feels off. The smiles look fake. People stop talking when you walk in. The vibe has shifted. You're no longer one of them. You're the target. Most guys fall apart at this point. We're literally wired to want to belong, to be accepted, to feel safe in a group. When people turn on you, every instinct tells you to panic, beg, explain yourself. Do whatever it takes to get back in. Don't. If you're feeling the whole world pushing against you right now, that's not bad luck. That's a sign you've leveled up. You triggered the immune system of average people. You became a threat, which means you're finally doing something real. Niccolo Machiavelli, the guy who literally wrote the book on power, didn't write it from a comfortable palace. He wrote it from hell. He was exiled, stripped of everything, accused of crimes he didn't commit, thrown in a dungeon and physically tortured. His hands tied behind his back, lifted by a rope, dropped until his shoulders came out of their sockets. Everyone was against him. The government, the church, the Medici family, even his old friends. He didn't beg. He didn't apologize. He went home, cleaned himself up, sat at his desk, and wrote The Prince. He turned his worst moment into something that outlasted every single person who ever hurt him. You want to know how to win when everything is stacked against you? You want to know how to flip the situation so their hatred actually helps you rise? I'm going to show you, but you have to be willing to stop needing people to like you, because power has nothing to do with popularity. First, understand what's actually happening. You're not being attacked because you're weak. You're being attacked because you broke an unspoken rule of the group. Machiavelli said it best: there's nothing harder or more dangerous than trying to introduce something new. When you start improving yourself, fixing your money, your body, your mindset, you hold up a mirror to everyone around you. Your growth reminds them of their laziness. Your discipline makes them feel bad about themselves. They don't actually hate you. They hate what you're showing them about themselves. This is the crab bucket thing. One crab tries to climb out, the others don't cheer. They grab its legs and pull it back down. You're that crab. And the mistake you keep making is trying to explain yourself to the other crabs. You think if they just understood your vision, they'd support you. Stop. They understand perfectly. That's exactly why they're against you. To win, you have to stop seeing their opposition as a problem. See it as proof. If you were going the wrong way, they'd be comfortable with you. The fact that they're uncomfortable means you're on the right track. The resistance you feel is just the cost of moving fast. Accept it. You can't bring everyone with you. A herd moves at the speed of its slowest member. A predator moves at the speed of his hunger. Pick which one you are. When people turn on you, the instinct is to speak up, defend yourself, set the record straight. That's a trap. The moment you argue with a mob, you're giving them power. You're showing them that their opinion can shake you. Machiavelli had a different approach. When the Medici threw him out of Florence, he didn't stand in the street screaming about how unfair it was. He disappeared. He went to his farm and went completely silent. This is the strategy of the void. When everyone's against you, remove the target. Become a ghost. Pull back your presence, your voice, your energy. This does two things. It starves the fire because hate and gossip need your reaction as fuel. When you give them nothing, absolute silence, they have nothing to burn, and they start turning on each other, and it builds mystery. While you're quiet, you're not sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. You're working, you're building, but nobody can see it. Think about the psychological impact on someone who attacks you and gets zero reaction. No anger, no sadness, no response, just silence. And then you're gone. They start wondering, what does he know? Why isn't he scared? What is he planning? The paranoia switches from you to them. Use this time alone. Being isolated isn't punishment, it's a forge. When you have no one to rely on, you're forced to build your own backbone. You stop looking for approval because nobody's there to give it. You learn to power yourself. Look at 50 Cent, blacklisted by the industry, shot 9 times, rejected by every label. He didn't complain. He went to the basement and started making mixtapes. He flooded the streets with actual work, not promises. He built a fan base before the industry even knew he was back. By the time they realized he was a threat, he was already the king. If they've exiled you, good. They locked you in a room with your own potential. Don't come out until you're a monster. Sometimes you can't disappear, though. You're stuck in the office with people trying to get you fired. You're living in the same house as people who resent you. You're in enemy territory. This is where Machiavelli's most dangerous lesson comes in. Hide what you're really thinking. He tells the story of Lucius Brutus, a man whose father and brother were murdered by the king. He was next. If he fought back, he'd die. If he ran, he'd be hunted. So Brutus played dumb. He acted slow, harmless, a little stupid. He let the king laugh at him. He let the whole court mock him. He made himself so small, he became invisible, not a threat, basically a pet. But behind that mask, he was watching everything, studying the king's weaknesses, waiting for the exact right moment. And when that moment came, the idiot Brutus dropped the mask, picked up the sword, and led the revolution that ended the monarchy and built the Roman Republic. He won because he was okay with looking like a loser. Robert Greene calls this Law 38. Think what you want, but act like everyone else. When people are against you, don't let them see your ambition. It's a target. Blend in. If your boss hates you, don't outshine him yet. Agree with him, flatter him, make him feel safe. If your family mocks your business idea, say, "Yeah, maybe you're right. It's just a little side thing. Probably nothing." Lower their guard. Make them put their weapons down because they think you're already done. There's actually a deep confidence in this. You're looking at them thinking, "I'm playing a role right now," and you're too blind to see it. This isn't weakness. This is espionage. You're a spy behind enemy lines. Gather information, save your resources, and wait for the moment their back is turned. An arrow doesn't announce itself before it hits. Nassim Taleb, a modern thinker who basically sounds like Machiavelli with a philosophy degree, came up with the idea of anti-fragility. There are three kinds of things in this world. Fragile things that break under pressure, like glass. Robust things that survive pressure, like a rock. And anti-fragile things that actually get stronger under pressure, like muscles, like a prepared mind. When everyone's against you, don't just try to survive. Use the pressure to get stronger. How? Treat their attacks like feedback. When they say you're arrogant, that means you need to hide your pride better. When they say you don't know what you're doing, that means there's a specific skill you need to sharpen. When they say you're broke, that means cash flow should be your only focus right now. Your enemies are doing something your friends never will. They're telling you the brutal truth because they want to hurt you. Remove the emotional part and just take the information. Machiavelli said, "A prince must be both a fox and a lion. A fox to spot traps, a lion to scare off wolves." Your enemies are literally showing you where every trap is. Use that. And here's the thing. Being under pressure like this forces you to evolve fast. Comfort makes you lazy. Being hunted makes you sharp. They're forcing you to become elite without even meaning to. Thank them for it. Without the Joker, Batman is just a rich guy in a costume. The villain creates the hero. Look at Steve Jobs. He got fired from his own company. The board, the investors, the entire industry turned on him. He didn't quit. He started next, bought Pixar, learned how to actually manage people, learned patience. Those years in the wilderness didn't break him. They made him into the leader who came back and built the most valuable company on the planet. If he'd stayed at Apple in 1985, comfortable and arrogant, he would have failed. The betrayal actually saved him. When the group rejects you, you realize something terrifying. Nobody is coming to rescue you. In movies, the cavalry shows up. In real life, you are the cavalry. Machiavelli warned against relying on powerful allies or hired help to fight your battles. He said, if they lose, you lose. If they win, now you owe them. If you let someone else save you from your enemies, you just traded one cage for another. This isolation is your chance to become completely self-reliant. You need money that doesn't depend on a boss who hates you. You need peace that doesn't depend on someone who doesn't get you. You need ideas you tested yourself, not ones you copied from the group. And once you truly need nothing from them, their power over you disappears completely. Think about why you even care that they're against you. It's because you still need something from them. Their approval, their money, their access, their love. Figure out what that is, then either get it yourself or decide you don't need it. The moment you can look at the whole mob and genuinely think, I don't need you, you've already won. You've cut the strings. And a free man is the most dangerous thing in the world to a group of people who are still trapped. You look at the people against you and see one solid wall of opposition. That's an illusion. No group is actually united. They're held together by temporary interests, and right now, by one shared thing, which is their focus on you. The moment you remove yourself as the target, that glue starts to dissolve. Without a common enemy, their internal problems come out. Your job isn't to fight the whole wall. Find the one loose brick. There's always someone in the mob who's less committed. Someone who's only nodding along because they're scared of being targeted themselves. Someone secretly jealous of whoever's leading the attack. Find that person. Approach them privately, not to fight, just to connect. Something like, I know the others don't really get it, but I always thought you saw things differently. Feed their ego. Drop a small seed of doubt about the others. You don't have to lie. Just point out friction that already exists. When you flip one person, the group is no longer everyone against you. It's some people against you. That one shift in perception destroys their momentum. Now they're watching each other, wondering who's loyal, who's talking to who. Paranoia takes over their camp. And while they're busy looking at each other, they stop looking at you. Revenge feels natural. When someone hurts you, everything in you wants to scream, expose them, hurt them back. Push that feeling down. It's messy, and it almost always backfires. If you go after them directly, you give them a story. Look how crazy he is. We were right about him. You prove their point. The only revenge that actually works, the only one Machiavelli would approve of, is building a life so undeniably good that their opinion of you becomes a joke. Think about it. Does a lion care what a sheep thinks about his hunting? No. The gap is too wide. Your goal is to make that gap so wide, their words can't even reach you. While they're gossiping, you're training. While they're complaining about the same job at the same bar every Friday night, you're building something. While they stay the same, you're getting better. This is the Count of Monte Cristo strategy. Edmond Dantes was locked away, forgotten, completely erased. He didn't scream. He spent years learning, finding the treasure, and completely reinventing himself. When he came back, he didn't just beat his enemies. He bought their banks, uncovered their secrets, and quietly dismantled their lives while smiling at their faces. They didn't even know it was him until it was already over. Become the Count. Let them have their little wins today. Let them have the office politics and the petty drama. You're playing a completely different game. You're playing for the next decade, not the next day. 6 months of real focused work can put you 5 years ahead of the average person. Imagine walking back into that same environment a year from now. Different car, different body, different mindset, different income, and just treating everyone with calm, polite indifference. That hits harder than anything you could ever say to them, because it proves their opposition didn't stop you. It didn't even slow you down. They were just irrelevant. There's one final mental shift you need to make. Stop wishing things were easier. Stop wishing they were nicer to you. Learn to actually love the resistance. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate, not just accepting what happens to you, but embracing it as the actual material your greatness is made from. If everyone's against you, the universe is testing you. It's asking one question: do you believe in yourself enough to stand alone? The pilot doesn't hate the wind that pushes against the plane during takeoff. He uses that resistance to get off the ground. Without the opposing wind, the plane can't fly. Your enemies are your wind. Every time they say you can't, they're handing you fuel. Every time they leave you out, they're giving you the silence you need to work. Every time they betray you, they're teaching you something priceless. Machiavelli was stripped of his entire career. If that never happened, he would have stayed a mid-level government worker in Florence, forgotten by history. Because they destroyed him, they forced him to become a thinker. They created their own worst nightmare, a man whose ideas exposed their games for the next 500 years. When you start seeing your enemies through this lens, you stop being a victim and start being a predator. You look at them and think, thank you. You're making me dangerous. And that's the ultimate power move. When you can genuinely feel grateful toward the person trying to destroy you because of what they're teaching you, you become untouchable. They can't hurt you anymore because you've learned to turn every hit into fuel. They throw rocks at you and you build a castle. Eventually, the tide always turns. When you survive the hard season, when you build the thing, when you prove it, suddenly the same people who doubted you start showing back up. I always believed in you. We were just worried. Hey, can you help me with? They'll try to rewrite history and pretend they were on your side the whole time. This is your final test. Don't fall for it. You can forgive them, sure. Holding on to anger is just poison. You drink yourself. But never forget. Set a new standard. The people who were there when you had nothing, they get a real seat at the table. The ones who were holding the shovel trying to bury you, they can watch from outside. That's not being mean. That's being smart about who gets access to your energy. You've learned that loyalty is rare. You've learned most people only show up for the good times. You are the storm now. Keep your circle small, keep your plans quiet, and never apologize for the walls you built while you were just trying to survive. So here's the truth. When everyone is against you, it's not a tragedy, it's an initiation. Life is asking you one simple question. Do you believe in yourself enough to stand alone? Most people say no. They give in, apologize, go back to the herd, and live their whole life as a copy of someone else. But you're going to say yes. You're going to use the silence, use the darkness, study the game while everyone else is sleeping, and build something so solid that no one can touch it. And one day, you'll look down from what you've built. You'll see the people who doubted you, mocked you, betrayed you, and they'll look incredibly small. And you won't even feel angry. You won't want revenge. You'll just feel like yourself, completely. You're the outlier. They're the crowd. And that's the only win that matters. Here's something that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important thing in this entire conversation. When you're in that dark place, when everyone's against you, when you feel completely invisible, there's a specific kind of temptation that shows up, and it's more dangerous than any enemy you'll ever face outside. It's the temptation to shrink yourself just enough to fit back in. Not fully give up, just trim a little here, tone it down a little there. Maybe don't post that. Maybe don't say that. Maybe don't try that yet. And before you even realize what happened, you've slowly edited yourself into someone unrecognizable. You didn't lose in one big dramatic moment. You lost in 100 tiny quiet moments where you chose comfort over conviction. And that's the version of losing that never makes it into any story, because there's no villain to point at, no betrayal to blame, just you, slowly choosing the warm cage over the cold, open road. That's the real trap. Not the people against you, not the circumstances, not the bad luck. The trap is the version of you that gets tired of fighting and starts negotiating with mediocrity. The people who never reach what they're capable of, it's almost never because someone stopped them. It's because they stopped themselves, gradually, politely, with very reasonable excuses. So understand this. Every time you feel like toning it down, every time you feel like maybe I should just be more like them, that feeling is not wisdom. That's erosion. That's the slow death that looks like peace. The greats never shrank to fit the room. They built a bigger room. And here's the part that will mess with your head a little. The people around you, the ones making you feel like you need to shrink, most of them aren't even consciously doing it. They're not sitting in a room plotting against you like some movie villain. They're just deeply uncomfortable with the idea that someone in their circle might actually make it. Because if you make it, it forces them to ask a question they've been avoiding their whole life. Why haven't I? It's easier to pull you down than to answer that question. It's easier to call you delusional than to admit they've been playing it safe their whole life. It's easier to say you got lucky than to sit with the fact that they never even tried. You're not dealing with evil. You're dealing with fear, wearing the costume of criticism. And once you see it that way, everything changes. You stop taking it personally. You stop trying to convince them. You almost feel bad for them because they're trapped in a story where the only way to feel okay about themselves is to make sure you don't succeed. That's a miserable way to live. You don't have to be that. Now let's talk about something that separates the people who actually make it from the ones who almost did. And it comes down to one word: obsession. Not the kind therapists warn you about. The kind that looks completely unreasonable from the outside, but feels like the only sane option from the inside. When everything is against you, normal effort won't cut it. Be right. The timing will never be right. The timing will never be perfect. Someone will always have an opinion. There will always be a reason to wait. The people who win in impossible situations are the ones who decided that their goal was non-negotiable, and everything else, the opinions, the setbacks, the bad days, all of it was just noise. They became unreasonable. Unreasonable about their sleep schedule. Unreasonable about what they allowed in their environment. Unreasonable about who they gave their time to. Unreasonable about their standards. And people around them probably thought they were crazy. Probably said they were taking it too far, being too intense, too focused, too serious. Good, because reasonable people adjust their dreams to fit their circumstances. Unreasonable people adjust their circumstances to fit their dreams. Every single person who ever built something worth talking about was called obsessed, crazy, or delusional before they were called successful. That label isn't an insult. It's a receipt. It means you're operating at a frequency that people around you can't even pick up yet. Let's talk about the identity shift that has to happen, because this is where most people stall out. They change their habits, but they don't change how they see themselves. They start waking up early, but still see themselves as someone who struggles. They start making money, but still see themselves as someone who's broke. They start getting in shape, but still see themselves as the person who couldn't stick to anything. And because the identity doesn't change, the habits eventually collapse back to match the old story. The behavior always follows the belief, always. So the real work isn't just the actions. It's rewriting the story you tell yourself about who you are, not in a fake positive affirmation way, in a cold, deliberate, factual way. You look at the evidence. You kept going when most people would have stopped. That's not what a weak person does. You built something from nothing while people doubted you. That's not what an average person does. You chose discomfort over and over again when comfort was right there. That's not what someone without discipline does. You gather the evidence and you update the story, not because someone told you to believe in yourself, but because the proof is already there. You just have to be honest enough to look at it. And once that identity shifts, once you genuinely see yourself differently, the outside world starts to catch up. People treat you differently, not because you told them to, but because you stopped giving them permission to treat you like you were small. Your energy changed. Your posture changed. The way you walk into a room changed. and none of it required a single conversation or confrontation. You just became someone different on the inside, and the outside had no choice but to reflect it. Here's another thing that the most dangerous people in history understood, that most people completely overlook. Your greatest asset right now isn't your talent. It isn't your connections. It isn't even your work ethic. It's your reputation in 10 years. The version of you that exists a decade from now is being built right now by every decision you make in the dark, when no one's watching, when there's no immediate reward, when you're tired and frustrated and it feels pointless. Every single one of those moments is a deposit, and the account compounds. Most people think short-term because short-term is where the feelings live. It feels bad now, so they react now. It feels good now, so they indulge now. But the people who actually change the game are playing a movie while everyone else is watching a reel. They take the short-term pain because they can see the long-term picture clearly. When someone humiliates you, the short-term play is to react and attack back. The long-term play is to let them have that moment, go home, and get back to work. Because 5 years from now, that exact moment of humiliation becomes the story you tell about where you came from. Your pain has a future use. Don't waste it on a reaction that feels good for 5 minutes and costs you 5 years. The world never owed you a fair fight. It never did. And the moment you stop being angry about that and start being strategic about it, nobody can touch you. If this hit different, you already know what to do. Subscribe, because there's a lot more where this came from.